Hey, good morning, folks. This is another more than the refresh T3D Sessions, 10 minutes of pure knowledge power as quickly as you can consume, and for the younger folks within your attention span. Eugene, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about strategies of fighting web application registration spam uh, based on our knowledge obtained when doing and working with PostgreSQL website, which I'm a maintainer and developer of.
Yeah, for folks that don't know, Command Prompt is one of the primary sponsors of Postgres Conference here in the United States and Postgres World internationally. We help maintain an open source piece of code that's a fork of OSCM called PGEM. And one of the problems that we've encountered over the years is while we have a very solid attendee user base, there's some unsavory characters primarily seeking, SEO, and we needed to figure out how to deal with that problem. Eugene, what are some of the strategies that you came up with?
The first conclusion is that none of like a single strategy works, considering that most of these spammers are actually most of these spam registrations are generated by actual humans and not bots. So doing only one or two simplest things alone doesn't help really.
So you just said something I think is important because a lot of people think that the bad actors are a few people. Well, the bad actors are a few people or a few corporations, but the people doing the work, they're not bots. They're not something that was necessarily coded to create problems. There's actually basically human farms, not bot farms, but human farms that corporations employ to help increase the SEO of a site that a lot of people are using to increase the SEO of their own sites for affiliate links or raise ranks in various search engines and things like that. Yes?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Well, what is strategy number one?
Well, even though I said that implementing simplest solutions alone wouldn't help, like CAPTCHAs or registration form filled honeypots, one still should try adding them first. And on top of that, other checks may be implemented. So the general strategy here is to add a pipeline of registration filters and checks. And all of those elements in the pipeline combined can help obtaining acceptable result in filtering these spam registrations.
So the traditional methods, which I agree with, I mean, for example, I'm a moderator on some Discord forums, and as well as some Reddit stuff. But one of the things that Discord people do now is basically there is a subcategory or a channel, and they'll name it something. It doesn't really matter what they name it, but it's the honeypot. And if you post in that honeypot, you're automatically banned. And the reason they do that is that spammers, bot or human, it doesn't matter, have a tendency to log into Discord and then spam every channel on that Discord server. So the moment they hit that honeypot, boom, you're gone. You're a bad actor. So those types of things are effective, but you've come up with a little bit more, I don't want to say elaborate, but comprehensive. That's a good word. A comprehensive solution. How did you go about this?
Well, we started with implementing these easiest things like adding the mentioned honeypots to our registration forms, as well as Google reCAPTCHA. And these two methods were limited in their efficiency. But on top of that, we started adding other strategies and filters in that pipeline. So, for example, we're doing GeoIP-based visitor analytics, and considering that PostgreSQL has its main audience in the United States and Europe, And most of the spam registration, according to our analytics, come from other countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Russia, etc. What can be done on top of the usual measures like CAPTCHAs and honeypots is that we can basically block users based on their GeoIP data. Also, on top of that, there is free and paid services which allow you to check particular email or IP address against spammer abuse databases. And we,
Kind of like how with like email as well, right? If a spam comes from a known blacklist, it gets blocked.
yeah, the thing is that what I discovered is that a lot of these spammer email addresses registered on Gmail, for example, are being reused across multiple sites. And we had, I ran some queries on PostgreSQL and discovered that we had a couple of emails which registered several hundreds accounts for a single IP, for example. Similar things can be applied to email-based checks, but since emails are unique, at least in our application, you can register only one user account per email. But for the IP, yeah, this logic can be applied as well.
So with that, I mean, one of the things, people might be wondering, why is PostgreSQL even a target? What do you mean it increases SEO? And one of the things that you came up with is that one of the things that PostgreSQL does is celebrate its actual users and especially its speakers. And we want the speaker profile to be of something that is of professional value. And as I understand it, one of the problems we had previously is that if you registered, you had a profile page that was public. So you could register 1,000 accounts with a bunch of garbage in it, but because the bio had various links, it would create in theory, a higher SEO. How do we deal with this problem?
Yeah, there's another approach which one can take when trying to prevent spam registration. So if your web application, web resource has a publicly available registration process and the user profile, for example, as we have in PostgreSQL, is publicly viewable, what can be done is, well, actually two things, at least what we did. First of all, you can try making your website less interesting target for spammers. How we implemented it is that we made these public profiles enable and browsable / visible only for user accounts which actually contributed something to PostgreSQL. So currently, public user profiles are shown only for user accounts which at least purchased a conference ticket or spoken previously in one of conferences.
And when we say conference ticket, that would also be like volunteers and stuff like that. It's basically someone who has a ticket. It's not necessarily that they paid PostgreSQL. All right, so we're closing up here. What is another strategy that we have used that has been effective?
Well, another thing kind of related to the previous thing that we discussed is what can be tried is to reduce the amount of fields in the registration form to the bare minimum. So previously we have this bio field and telephone and other fields which are not really necessary for user account to function, but those were immediately exposed during the registration process. What we did is we removed these fields from the initial registration form and we made them available only once the user is basically verified by purchasing a ticket or submitting a presentation.
Oh, okay. Now that makes, you said submitting a presentation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes sense because they're not going to come back, right? So they're just going to register and try and dump a bunch of information in there. So if we're only looking for the bare minimum that they can register and confirm an account, then it doesn't, the rest of it doesn't matter. And then we'll wait for a conference, wait for them to submit a presentation. And when they submit, we can say, hey, for your benefit and the benefit of your career or whatever, or so people are interested in seeing your presentation more, please fill out these further fields. I can see how that works.
Yeah, and actually the results of that approach were verified recently. So previously we had around more than 100 spammer account registrations per day. And once we implemented these countermeasures, which we just discussed, over the couple of weeks, the number of spam registration gradually decreased from hundreds to 10 or 15 accounts per day. They are still there, but it's a significant decrease.
When you say hundreds, are we talking 500, 300, or
around 150 to up to 200 accounts per day? That's what we observed previously.
Okay, so I do advocacy, so I'm going to say 200 spammer accounts every day, and because of our efforts in analysis and deployment expertise, we've reduced that to 10 or 15 a day. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is correct.
No, that's excellent. I mean, that's manageable for even a single team or a single person team. So thank you so much for those efforts. And folks, remember that every solution, it doesn't come from the cloud. Every solution doesn't come from a package. Sometimes you actually have to think outside the box and globally about the problem to consider how to solve it. And with that, this has been another More Than a Refresh, a T3D session. Eugene, thank you so much. Fantastic work.